Welcome to the exchange video. We're going to have a look at the exchange variation of the French defense. Now this is a dreaded variation by some people because it has drawing tendencies at some levels, but not necessarily at our level. So we'll bring up the French defense e4, e6, d4, d5. And here the exchange variation is e takes d5, e takes d5. Now, we have a symmetrical pawn structure and neither side has any apparent weaknesses. So unbalancing the game can be sometimes difficult, but like I said in the first video, you already more or less equalized and you don't have much to worry about. So half the battle is won. Usually when this is played against you, your opponent is not playing for a win. Most likely he's going to be low rated, so he's going to be playing for a draw by playing in this way. But don't worry, the French defense is a counter-attacking opening, and sometimes you have to be ready to win a long game. But still the exchange variation doesn't guarantee a long game. I won a something like an 18-move game against a 2160 rated player 2 weeks ago. So anything can happen. Now I'm not gonna discuss any specific theory really, but I'm gonna give you some pointers. First, I'm gonna look at a piece setup that I've used a lot, and you can almost play this almost regardless of what White is doing. This is from a game I played many years ago. Wow, it's almost 15 years now. Man, I'm getting old. But still, I knew this setup then. I know it now. I've used it in the time in between. So bishop d3, White can go knight f3. Also, we'll have a look at c4 as well. Those are the main moves. But bishop d3 is logical in a way, because it keeps options open of putting a knight on f3 or knight on e2. And it seems like the bishop belongs here. Now, before going on to my game, I'm going to mention one option here. When White puts the bishop on d3, one option is to play c5. I haven't done this much, but it's not to everyone's taste because Black is accepting an isolated queen pawn. And by that I mean, let's see some moves here. Knight f3, knight c6, queen e2 check, bishop e7. This is a game by Viktor Korchnoi with Black. D takes e5. Now don't worry about this pawn, we're going to win it back after we castle. h3, castles, and Black wins the pawn. And now we have this isolated queen pawn position. And of course it's called just that because the queen pawn is isolated. So Black accepts pawn weakness, but on the other hand he has nice fluid piece development. And as you can see, White is not playing in the best way. Rook e8, gaining a tempo on the queen. Queen d6, getting ready to bring out the bishop and connect the rooks, but this move also has another idea. Note that the White player is rated 2455, so he's not a patcher. Knight bt2 and queen g3, utilizing the pin on this pawn here. Quite a nice idea. The queen can't be captured, and we have this idea of taking the pawn on h3. White tried to play bishop f5, blocking that idea, but rook e2. Things are getting rather tricky here on the f2 square. White tried knight d4 to block the diagonal, but after knight takes d4 he realized that things weren't really going his way, and Black is going to win this game. So he resigned actually after only 14 moves. So c5 is something you might want to keep in mind if you want to play for a win. And yeah, just I recommend, you know, finding some games in these lines, playing through them, find some strong players, find wins for black, and play through the games to get an idea. But this is something you can do if you want to play for a win. And yeah, c5 is considered especially playable with the bishop on d3 because it doesn't really play well against the isolated queen pawn because the bishop is in the way of any immediate pressure on the pawn once it becomes isolated. Of course, not right now. But okay, let's go back to what I was originally discussing, which is my piece setup that I've used over the years. And let me tell you that white will develop like this in a huge majority of the cases. I would venture a guess of like 60-70% of your games you're gonna have white play like this. It's a bunch of logical moves for white. I play bishop g4 here. Note that if white plays on early h3, you can play for bishop f5 instead. Try to exchange this bishop. Of course, first going knight e7, and then put the bishop on this square. White castled in this game. I played knight g to e7, rook e1, and queen d7. Note that in most lines of the exchange French, I like to exchange these bishops. And this I like because it gives me access to these squares here, c4 and e4 in some cases. I'm going to have a quick look at another game that I played, which in a way it demonstrates what can happen when you exchange these light squared bishops. In this game I didn't exchange them because I had other ideas. I played f6 and bishop h4. Now black has two ways to play here. We can castle on the king side, or we can castle on the queen side. And this goes again into the theme that I mentioned in the introduction video, that you tend to have chances to deviate, flexibility. And here, if you're feeling aggressive, you can go queen side. If you're feeling like you want a more solid game, you can go king side. And if you go king side, then especially I like exchanging the light squared bishops. Okay, so he played bishop h4. This I've had countless times in my games, and here I like to start an attack. Bishop goes back, I take on g3, and now I castle queen side. Of course, I moved my pawns on the king side, so I don't have shelter there, so I'm going king side. Knight bt2, and I go on with my attack. Here my opponent probably didn't play in the best way. He played queen a4. I don't really see a huge point to this move. Okay, maybe he wants to play b4, b5, but it's a little bit slow. Other ideas would have been to play b4 himself, or something like knight b3 at some point, trying to jump into the c5 square. Neither of these really scare me, and neither should they do you, because you already have an attack going as well. So he played queen a4, and he more or less played the same idea, h4. And my idea here simply is to open the h file. So I'm not going to take on h4. It's a possibility to take with the pawn, and maybe play this rook to the g file and try to make something happen there. But I've always liked this idea. I take on f3 and play g4, and then simply rook takes h4. Not this vision to g4. The knight is attacked, it must move, and then I can take the pawn on h4. And my other rook is ready to swing over. And I've already got a dangerous attack. My opponent played g3, I played rook h3, king g2, I doubled the rooks. He contested, but now I played knight f5, and the idea of this move is to block the bishop and get ready to bring my queen over to the h file as well, which cannot end well for him. He tried queen c2, but here I had an idea in mind which was published in a local newspaper. Rook takes g3. f takes g3, and knight e3 check. Seemingly winning the queen. But of course, first I have to play rook takes h1. And now if he takes, I can take the queen because I can block with my knight here if he makes a check on h8. So I would win material, so he took on e3. Queen e8 check, important Zwischenzug because if I take the rook immediately, there's bishop f5, pinning my queen. And I won actually a nice game. For full disclosure, I'll add that my opponent missed a near winning move here with bishop f5, which is a stunning move, which either forces me to deflect the knight, like this, in which case he takes my rook, or, well, the same if I take with the queen. We exchange and I'm in trouble. So this I missed, but nonetheless, this idea usually gives black a very nice attack. So all I had to do was execute it a little bit different, and usually I manage to do that. But this piece setup, if you go back, just simply bring the knights out like this, e7 and c6. Bishop always goes here, and then this bishop either here or here, depending on circumstances. Queen to d7, and then castle on which side you feel fitting in each case. Note that, yeah, when I castle kingside, let's say we go for that here. Like I said, usually we're gonna have the exchange of the light squared bishops. And note that even though the position is symmetrical, what I like about this is that at the moment we have the potential to put something on e4, while our f6 pawn is blocking his knight on f3 at the moment from doing much. Of course, this position should be around equal. I mean, I'm not claiming a black advantage, but I mean you can play for some things against a weaker opponent, and most of the time they will be playing too timidly to try anything. So you will have a free hand most of the time. But as I did in the game, you know, castling queenside, if you're up for a more sharp game, you can do that. Instead of bishop d3, white can also play something like c4. And here I had a nice win against a FIDE master rated 2400. Against c4, I like to give a check on b4. And after he blocks, if he plays bishop d2, I'll just take. Usually white blocks here, and I play knight e7. And once again, the knights are going to be placed similarly as we discussed earlier. The only difference is now that instead of d6, our bishop is out on b4. My opponent played a3, which forces me to take on c3. I castled, and bishop f5. Here actually I offered a draw. I thought my opponent didn't want to play for a win, but to my surprise, he refused the draw, so I was forced to play on. I developed my knight. And note that since we gave up the bishop pair, exchanging these bishops is a good strategical idea, both because we get play on the light squares and we want to neutralize the bishop pair. So I took on d3, and note the easy play on the light squares that I get. I take on c4 and knight a5. So his pawns are on black squares, but look at how my pieces are focused on the light squares here, and I'm going to take control of them quite soon. He played queen b4. Actually brought the other knight to c6, attacking the queen and protecting my other knight. And after he retreated, queen to d5. A nice light square, controlling the light squares. And notice how my pieces are ready to play on the light squares. And this is often a theme in in the exchange that white will have a bunch of pawns on black squares. So there's some potential for this guy to be a little bit weak. He played bishop f4, attacking the pawn on c7, but this guy here. But I just ignored it. I attacked this knight. I attacked it again. And after bishop e3, I found this nice move, knight e7. Now my queen has come into c4, and we can bring another piece to a good light square. And I thought this game beautifully demonstrated a nice light square strategy by black. Queen takes c4 only move. And yeah, this was a nice trap actually, because if he takes on a5, I have b6 trapping his queen. So it was a nice point in playing knight e7 to d5. So he was forced to take my queen, and now knight takes c4. And look at the light square strategy. You know, even my king, my rooks are on light squares. And here, yeah, he doesn't really have any good way to proceed here. I think I'm winning material here. He actually played knight f4 and I won a pawn on e3. So okay, already a nice ending, and I managed to win it. So I'm not going to keep this long. The exchange variation, there's not much to worry about, like I said. Okay, we can mention moves like bishop f4 or something like this. I mean, just play bishop d6, trade pieces, knight e7, knight c6, castle. I mean, I don't remember any theory here. I just bring out my pieces, and usually, yeah, knight e7 is useful because you're slightly unbalancing the game. Let's say bishop d3, knight c6. When the knight goes to f3 and you put your knight on e7, you're slightly imbalancing the game by placing your knights differently. If we had played exactly the same setup as white here, like pawn to c6, knight to f6, then of course plans are very similar, but you just bring a little bit of an imbalance into the game, and things don't necessarily have to be all that drawish. So yeah, I'm not gonna give too much theory. My main advice: remember the setup. Remember your options. You can castle either side. If white plays an early c4, you want to play bishop b4 check. And well, in this game, I played knight e7 and a3 happened. But usually, you're fine with pinning here on both sides, and then going knight c6, castling. Usually, note that with the pawn to c4, it's slightly different. You don't really have the option of castling queen side anymore. So let's do something like this. Knight c6, castles. You can at some point take here. Bishop takes. I think castles is fine here. And this is a very solid position for black. You don't really have much to worry about. If you're interested in theory, I would maybe investigate a position like this one. Perhaps the most theoretical you can get in the exchange variation. But just remember this: if c4, you want to bring your bishops out to the pins. Most of the time, the knights belong here and here, and in many lines, you're quite fine with exchanging light squared bishops. So that's about all I know about the exchange variation, to be honest, and all I think you should know. Of course, the more you play lines, the more you get experience, and I've gotten quite experience, especially in blitz games, in outplaying lower rated opponents in endgames. But yeah, you need experience. So I hope these tips will will become helpful. Don't fear the exchange variation. You already have almost more or less an equal game, and you can still play chess and outplay a lower-rated opponent. So I'll see you later in the week with some other variations of the French defense. See you. Bye-bye.